Fear is perhaps the most universal of all human experiences. Before we learn to speak, before we understand the world around us, fear is already there. It arrives quietly, settles deeply, and stays with us far longer than we ever expect. Fear has walked beside humanity since the very beginning. It sat with our ancestors beside the fire in the dark, listening for sounds in the night. It watched from the edges of the forest, alert to every movement, every shadow. In those early days, fear helped us survive. It sharpened our senses, it kept us alive, and so fear became familiar. So familiar that we stopped questioning it. So familiar that we began to mistake it for wisdom. Today, the world has changed, but fear has not. It still wakes us in the early hours of the morning, long before the sun rises. It still tightens the chest, quickens the breath, and fills the mind with questions that have no answers yet. What if something goes wrong? What if I fail? What if I lose what I love? What if the future is not kind? Fear no longer hides in forests or shadows. It lives in our thoughts. It moves through our relationships. It appears in our work, our decisions, and our quiet moments alone. Even when we are safe, even when nothing is wrong, fear finds a way to speak. Because fear feels urgent, we listen. Because it feels convincing, we believe it. We assume that fear is telling us something true about the world. We assume that its voice must be trusted. But what if fear is not the voice of truth? The ancient teachers saw something that we often forget. They understood that fear is not always a response to danger, but often a response to imagination. They notice that fear arises not only from what is happening, but from what the mind believes might happen, from stories about the future that have not yet arrived. The Buddha spoke of fear as an uninvited guest, not an enemy to be fought, not a flaw to be eliminated, but something to be understood. He taught that fear disturbs the mind, not because life is always dangerous, but because the mind so easily leaves the present moment. Fear pulls us forward into imagined tomorrows and makes us suffer events that may never occur. And yet within this teaching, there is something deeply hopeful. The same mind that creates fear also holds the key to freedom. The imagination that paints dark futures can also learn to rest. The mind that tightens around what might go wrong can also soften into what is already safe. Tonight we will not try to force fear away. We will not argue with it or push it down. We will simply begin to understand it. And as understanding grows, something gentle begins to happen. The grip loosens, the breath deepens. The heart remembers that there is another way to be. This is where our journey begins. Fear is not always loud. Often it arrives quietly. It slips into the mind when the world grows still, when the lights are off, when there is nothing left to distract us from our own thoughts. It whispers questions that have no immediate answers. Questions about tomorrow, about loss, about uncertainty, about things we cannot control. And because these questions feel serious, we assume they deserve our full attention. But here is something rarely noticed. Fear does not arise because danger is present. Fear arises because the mind has wandered into the future. The Buddha taught that the present moment, when seen clearly, is almost always safe. Right now, as you listen, there is likely no immediate threat. Your body is supported. Your breath is moving in and out on its own. The night holds you quietly, yet fear may still be here. This is because fear does not live in the present. It lives in imagined futures. The mind has a remarkable ability to travel forward in time. In a single instant, it can create entire scenarios, scenes filled with loss, failure, illness, separation, and regret. And when these scenes appear vividly enough, the body reacts as if they are real. The heart begins to race, the muscles tighten, the breath grows shallow. The body does not know that the danger exists only in thought. This is why fear feels so convincing. It is experienced physically. It is felt as sensation, not just as an idea. The ancient teachers understood this deeply. They saw that fear is not simply an emotion but a process, a chain reaction that begins with a thought and ends in suffering. And they also saw that this chain can be gently interrupted, not by force, not by suppression, but by understanding. To understand fear, we must first stop treating it as an enemy. Fear is not trying to harm us, it is trying to protect us using very old strategies. Long ago, fear kept human beings alive. When survival depended on constant vigilance, fear was useful. Imagining worst-case scenarios helped our ancestors prepare for real dangers. But the world has changed faster than our nervous systems. Today, fear often sounds the same alarm for situations that are not life-threatening at all. A difficult conversation, an uncertain decision, a possibility of embarrassment, a memory from the past, a thought about aging, illness, or death. Fear reacts as if a tiger were nearby, even when we are sitting safely in a quiet room. This mismatch creates unnecessary suffering. The Buddha did not teach that fear should be eliminated. He taught that fear should be understood. Understanding begins with seeing fear clearly without judgment. When fear arises, we can notice it. We can feel it in the body, the tightness, the heat, the contraction. And instead of asking, "How do I make this stop?" we can ask a different question. What is fear asking me to believe right now? Often fear is presenting a single story, one outcome, one dark possibility. It says, this will go wrong. You will lose something important. You will not be able to handle what comes. Fear speaks in certainties, but the future is not certain. This is one of the most important insights the Buddha offered. We suffer not because the future is dangerous, but because we pretend we already know what it will be. Fear tells us a story and insists that it is the truth. But it is only one story among many. To loosen fear's grip, we do not need to replace it with blind optimism. We simply need to remember that fear's story is incomplete. There are other possibilities. What if things unfold more gently than you expect? What if the difficulty passes? What if support appears when you need it? What if you are stronger than you think? These questions do not deny reality. They restore balance. Fear narrows the mind. Understanding widens it. When the mind widens, the body begins to soften. The shoulders drop. The breath deepens. The nervous system begins to settle. This settling is not passive. It is intelligent. It allows us to respond to life rather than react to imagined futures. The Buddha taught that peace does not come from controlling events. It comes from seeing clearly. Seeing that thoughts are thoughts. Seeing that feelings are feelings. Seeing that the future has not arrived yet. When we stop treating fear's stories as facts, something remarkable happens. Fear loses its authority. It may still appear, but it no longer commands. And from this place, a deeper inquiry becomes possible. If fear is not an enemy, then what is it? The teachings suggest that fear is a signal, not of danger, but of attachment. We fear losing what we cling to. We fear change because we want things to stay the same. We fear the unknown because we want certainty. Fear reveals where the heart is holding too tightly. And this brings us to a deeper understanding. Freedom does not come from removing all uncertainty. That is impossible. Freedom comes from learning to live with uncertainty without panic, to rest in not knowing. This is not something we learn all at once. It is a gradual practice, a gentle training of the mind. And the ancient teachers often used stories to help illuminate this truth. So now let us turn to one such story. A story about fear, imagination, and a single question that changed everything. Entia. There is a story told in certain monasteries passed quietly from teacher to student about fear and the way the mind creates its own storms. A young student and his teacher were walking together through a vast forest. They had been visiting a distant village, offering teachings to a small community, and were now returning to their monastery before nightfall. The morning had been gentle. Sunlight filtered through the leaves. The path was clear, the air calm. But as the afternoon unfolded, the sky began to change. Clouds gathered slowly, dark and heavy, turning the light a dull shade of gray. The wind stirred at first like a soft breath, then with growing insistence. Leaves trembled overhead. The birds which had filled the forest with sound only moments before fell suddenly silent. The storm came quickly. Rain began to fall in scattered drops, then in relentless sheets. The wind surged through the trees, bending branches and sending leaves spinning through the air. The older trees groaned and swayed their trunks, creaking under the pressure. The young student had never experienced anything like it. All around them, branches snapped and fell into the undergrowth. Somewhere in the distance, there came the unmistakable sound of a large tree giving way. A slow crack, then a thunderous crash as it struck the earth. The path grew slick with mud. The light dimmed as the sky darkened, though it was still early afternoon. With every sudden sound, the student flinched. His shoulders crept upward, his breath shortened, his hands began to tremble. He tried to keep walking, fixing his eyes on the calm figure of his teacher moving steadily ahead. But his legs grew heavy. His chest felt tight as though something were pressing inward. The images began. He saw a tree falling directly onto the path. He imagined the weight, the impact, the pain. He pictured himself, pinned beneath broken branches, helpless. The images came faster and faster, one building upon the next. And then he could go no further. He stopped in the middle of the path and called out, his voice strained. "I cannot go on," he said. "I cannot take another step." The old monk turned and walked back toward him through the rain unhurried, despite the chaos around them. He stood beside the student steady and composed, as if the storm were happening somewhere else entirely. "What troubles you?" the teacher asked gently. The student struggled to speak. "What if a tree falls while we are beneath it?" he said. "What if the next crash is the one that finds us? I cannot stop seeing it in my mind." The teacher listened quietly. Rain streamed down his robes and face, but he seemed unaware of it. The wind howled through the forest branches, breaking and falling all around them. At last, the monk placed a hand on the student's shoulder. "I understand the question you're asking," he said. "You are asking what would happen if a tree fell while we were beneath it." The student nodded. "Then let me offer you another question," the teacher continued. What would happen if a tree did not fall while we were beneath it? The student blinked. The storm did not stop. The rain did not ease. The wind did not soften. But something in that question opened. What would happen? The monk went on. If we walked through this forest safely? What if we arrived at the monastery wet and tired but unharmed? What if the trees that fall miss us entirely? The student stood very still. The fear was still there. He could feel it in his body, the tension, the trembling. But alongside it, something else appeared. A small space, a pause. That is also possible, the student said quietly. Yes, the monk replied, that is also possible, and it is far more likely. He gestured to the forest around them. Look at how many trees surround us, he said, and how few are falling. You have been living as though the danger was certain, as though disaster had already arrived. The student looked around with new eyes. The storm was still fierce. The world had not changed, but his relationship to it had. The teacher began walking again slowly, and this time the student followed. Fear, the monk said as they moved forward, always asks the same question. What would happen if? Followed by something terrible. Our minds are skilled at imagining catastrophe, but we forget that the future holds many possibilities, not just the one fear chooses to show us. They walked on together. Gradually, the wind softened. The rain began to ease. And by evening, just as the teacher had imagined, they emerged from the forest and saw the warm lights of the monastery glowing ahead. They had walked through the storm and arrived safely on the other side. What can we learn from this simple story? At first glance, it may seem like nothing more than a tale of reassurance, a calm teacher helping a frightened student through a dangerous moment. But beneath the surface, something much deeper is being revealed. The Buddha taught that our suffering does not come directly from the world itself. It comes from how we meet the world in our minds. He said that we are disturbed not by things, but by the views we take of things. The storm in the forest was real. The wind was strong. The rain was heavy. Trees truly were falling. And yet the greatest suffering in that moment did not come from the storm. It came from the images the student's mind was creating. Long before any tree could possibly fall on him, the student had already been crushed beneath one in his imagination. He had already experienced the fear, the pain, the helplessness. His body reacted as though the disaster had already occurred. This is the nature of fear. Fear takes a possibility and presents it as a certainty. It takes a maybe and turns it into an inevitable. And once this happens, the body responds automatically. The heart races, the breath becomes shallow, the muscles tighten, the nervous system shifts into alarm. The body does not know that the danger exists, only in thought. This is why fear feels so convincing. It is not just an idea, it is a full-bodied experience. The ancient teachers understood this well. They saw that the imagination is a powerful tool. It can save our lives when danger is real, but it can also imprison us when danger is imagined. The same mind that creates fear also creates suffering. But here is the important part. That same mind also holds the key to freedom. The teacher in the forest did not argue with the student. He did not tell him that his fear was foolish or irrational. He did not deny the possibility that a tree could fall. Instead, he gently balanced the imagination. He offered a different question. Not, what if this goes wrong, but what if it does not?
This single shift changed everything. The storm did not stop. The conditions did not suddenly become safe. But the student was no longer trapped inside a single frightening story. He remembered something essential. The future was unknown. Fear had been pretending to know what would happen, but it did not know, and neither did he. This not knowing is where freedom begins. We suffer most when we forget that we do not know what will happen next. We treat fearful thoughts as prophecy. We live as though the darkest outcome has already been decided. But the future is open. It always has been. Every moment contains countless possibilities. Fear ineptly chooses one and insists that it is the only one. When we remember that we do not know, the grip loosens. We stop exhausting ourselves fighting events that have not arrived. We return to the present moment where our feet are on the ground and our breath is still moving. This is why the Buddha emphasized awareness of the present moment, not as an escape, but as a refuge. In this moment, right now, you are likely safe. Whatever difficulties may come later are not here yet. Fear asks us to suffer twice, once now and once later. Understanding allows us to suffer only when suffering is actually required. There is another important teaching hidden in this story. Fear narrows perception. When the student was afraid, he could see only falling trees. He could not see the vastness of the forest. He could not see how unlikely his imagined disaster truly was. Fear shrinks the world. Understanding expands it again. When the mind expands, the body follows. The shoulders drop. The breath deepens. Movement becomes possible again. This is not bravery, it is clarity. The Buddha did not teach us to be fearless heroes. He taught us to see clearly. And clear seeing naturally brings calm. As the student walked again step by step, the storm passed on its own, as storms always do. This is another quiet lesson. Fear tells us that difficult moments will last forever. Experience tells us otherwise. Everything that arises passes. Storms move on, emotions shift, thoughts dissolve. When we stop feeding fear with imagination, it loses its fuel, and something gentler takes its place. Trust. Not the blind trust that nothing bad will ever happen, but the deeper trust that whatever happens, we can meet it. This is the beginning of freedom. There is something deeply important to understand about fear. It is not only an experience we endure, it is something the mind actively creates. The Buddha taught that the same mind capable of peace is also capable of fear. Nothing external needs to change for fear to arise. The world may remain exactly as it is, while the inner world transforms into a place of threat and danger. This is because fear is a kind of storytelling. The mind takes fragments of memory, bits of information, half-remembered experiences, and weaves them into a narrative about what might happen. Once the story begins, it gathers momentum. One thought leads to another. One image calls forth the next. And before we realize it, we are no longer here. We are living inside a future that does not exist. The Buddha observed that the mind has a strong tendency toward what he called papanka, mental proliferation. This is the habit of adding and adding and adding to a single thought until it becomes a complex web of worry and fear. A simple thought arises. What if something goes wrong? And the mind replies, then this will happen. And after that, this will happen. And when that happens, everything will be ruined. Soon the mind is no longer asking questions. It is delivering verdicts. This is how fear becomes convincing. The mind does not present fear as imagination. It presents it as insight.
But insight is quiet. Fear is loud. Insight opens space. Fear closes it. The Buddha taught that when fear arises, it is a sign that the mind has left the present moment. It has moved into a future that cannot be verified. In the present moment, things are usually manageable. The body is breathing. The ground is supporting us. The night is quiet. But fear drags attention away from what is real and into what is imagined. And once attention leaves the present, fear multiplies. This is why understanding fear begins with attention, not fighting fear, not suppressing it, but seeing it clearly. When fear arises, we can pause. We can notice the story that is being told. We can ask gently, is this happening now? Often the honest answer is no. This does not mean that the fear is wrong. It means that it is premature. Fear wants certainty. It wants guarantees, but life offers none. And this is where fear and wisdom part ways. Fear demands certainty before it will allow peace. Wisdom accepts uncertainty and finds peace anyway. The Buddha did not promise a life free from danger or loss. He promised freedom from unnecessary suffering. Unnecessary suffering arises when we demand that the future behave in a particular way. The mind says, I will be okay if this does not happen. I will be safe if things go according to plan. I will relax when I know what comes next. But the future refuses to cooperate. It remains unknown, and so fear persists. The Buddha's teaching offers another way. Instead of trying to control the future, we learn to meet the present. Instead of rehearsing disasters, we cultivate awareness. This awareness does something subtle but powerful. It reminds us that thoughts are events in the mind, not commands we must obey. A fearful thought can arise and pass. It does not require action. It does not require belief. When we see fear as a process rather than a truth, its authority weakens. This does not mean fear disappears immediately. Habits formed over a lifetime do not dissolve in a moment, but something shifts. Fear is no longer the ruler. It becomes a visitor, and visitors do not stay forever. The Buddha often spoke of the mind as something that can be trained, not through force, but through familiarity. When we repeatedly notice fear without feeding it, the mind learns something new. It learns that fear does not need to be obeyed. It learns that safety does not come from imagining everything that could go wrong. It learns that peace is available, even when uncertainty remains. This training is gentle. Each time fear arises and we do not immediately follow it, we are practicing freedom. Each time we return to the breath, to the body, to the present moment, we weaken the habit of fear. Slowly, the mind learns another way to be. A way that is spacious, a way that is patient, a way that trusts life to unfold. The Buddha taught that liberation does not come from eliminating fear at all costs. It comes from seeing fear clearly and not being ruled by it. And this clarity opens the door to something unexpected. Not courage, not confidence, but ease. An ease that does not depend on outcomes. An ease that rests in not knowing. This is the beginning of true peace. There is another dimension of fear that the ancient teachers understood clearly. Fear does not only disturb the present moment, it shapes the future. This is one of fear's most subtle and cruel tricks. It presents itself as protection, as vigilance, as preparation. But very often, fear creates the very outcomes it is trying to prevent.
When fear arises, it does not stay confined to thought. It moves into the body. The shoulders tighten, the jaw clenches, the breath becomes shallow, the muscles prepare for action. This tension changes how we move, how we speak, how we decide. And over time, these changes accumulate. The Buddha taught that mental states are not passive. They are active forces. A fearful mind does not simply observe the world. It interacts with it in a particular way. And that interaction matters. Consider someone who is afraid of failing at something important. Perhaps they are about to give a presentation, take an examination, or have a difficult conversation. Fear tells them a story. This could go badly. You might embarrass yourself. You might fail. The body responds. Sleep becomes restless. The mind rehearses worst-case scenarios late into the night. By the time the moment arrives, the person is exhausted and tense. Their natural abilities are still there, but fear has blocked access to them. They speak stiffly. They forget what they know. They react instead of responding. And when things do not go well, fear claims victory. See, it says, "I warned you." But fear does not mention its own role in the outcome. This pattern appears everywhere. A person fears being abandoned by someone they love. That fear makes them watchful, suspicious, controlling. They seek constant reassurance. They question small changes in tone or behavior. They tighten around the relationship. And slowly, the other person feels mistrusted, confined, unable to breathe. Eventually, the relationship breaks. Fear mourns the loss and never recognizes that it helped create it. The Buddha spoke of this in terms of cause and effect, not as punishment, not as fate, but as a natural consequence. A tense mind leads to tense action. Tense action leads to difficult results. This is not superstition, it is observation. Fear changes how we inhabit the world, and the world responds. There is a simple example that makes this clear. Learning to ride a bicycle. A child receives their first bicycle and climbs on with excitement, but balance is unfamiliar. The bicycle wobbles, fear appears. With each wobble, the child grips the handlebars tighter. Their arms stiffen, their body locks. And because of this rigidity, balance becomes impossible. A bicycle requires softness, tiny adjustments, a willingness to flow with movement. But fear removes softness. The tighter the grip, the harder the fall. It is only when the child relaxes, when the shoulders drop, when the grip loosens, that balance suddenly appears. The bicycle begins to cooperate. This is not coincidence. It is the same principle that operates throughout life. Fear makes us rigid. Rigidity makes life harder. Relaxation makes us responsive. Responsiveness allows life to flow. The Buddha understood that fear contracts the mind. A contracted mind cannot see options. It cannot adapt. It cannot respond creatively. It reacts, and reaction is rarely skillful. This is why fear is such a poor guide. It believes it is protecting us, but it is narrowing us. The opposite of fear is not recklessness. It is trust. Not trust that nothing bad will happen, but trust that we can meet whatever happens. A relaxed mind sees more. It notices possibilities. It responds rather than reacts. This is why people who move through life with ease often appear lucky. They are not spared difficulty. They simply do not tense against it. They adjust, they flow, they recover. Fear tells us that tightening will keep us safe. Experience teaches otherwise. The Buddha described a quality called equanimity, a steady, balanced presence that remains open regardless of conditions.
This quality does not prevent storms. It prevents panic, and in doing so, it prevents many unnecessary disasters. Fear tries to control outcomes. Equanimity prepares the heart. When the heart is prepared, outcomes matter less. This is the deeper freedom the teachings point toward. Not control over life, but harmony with it. When fear loosens its grip, something remarkable becomes possible. We stop fighting life and begin participating in it, and this changes everything. Fear does not live only in thought. It lives in the body. Long before the mind finishes telling its fearful story, the body has already begun to respond. The shoulders rise without permission. The jaw tightens, the belly hardens, the breath grows shallow and fast, caught high in the chest. This happens so quickly that we rarely notice it. The body reacts before we have time to think. This reaction is ancient. It comes from a time when danger was physical and immediate, when survival depended on speed, strength, and readiness to flee or fight. When a predator appeared, the body needed to act. Muscles tensed, breathing quickened, attention narrowed. In those moments, fear was useful, but the body does not know the difference between a real threat and an imagined one. When the mind pictures a frightening future, the body responds exactly as if that future were already here. This is why fear is exhausting. We live in a constant state of low-level alarm, preparing for dangers that never arrive. The body remains tense for hours, days, even years, and tension has consequences. A tense body cannot move gracefully. A tense body cannot think clearly. A tense body cannot rest. The Buddha understood this deeply. He taught that body and mind are not separate things. They are one continuous process. What happens in the mind affects the body. What happens in the body affects the mind. This means that working with fear does not have to begin in thought. It can begin in sensation. When fear arises, one of the most powerful things we can do is simply notice the body. Not to fix it, not to force relaxation, just to notice. Notice the tightness in the shoulders. Notice the clenching in the jaw. Notice the hardness in the belly. This noticing alone begins to change things. Attention is permission. When the body is seen, it begins to soften on its own. The Buddha taught practices that begin with awareness of the body for this very reason. Not because the body is the problem, but because the body is the doorway. When we soften the body, the mind follows. Think of someone who is deeply worried about their health. Perhaps they have read something frightening. Perhaps they carry a family history that troubles them. Fear begins quietly. What if something is wrong? What if I am already sick and do not know it? The body responds. Sleep becomes shallow. The breath becomes tight. There is a constant hum of tension beneath the surface. This tension does not protect the body. It harms it. Chronic stress weakens the immune system. It creates inflammation. It interferes with the body's natural ability to heal and repair. The fear of illness becomes a condition that invites illness. Or consider someone who fears having an accident while traveling. They grip the steering wheel tightly. They startle at every movement. Their attention is scattered by anxiety. A relaxed driver responds smoothly. A tense driver overreacts. Fear creates jerky movements. Jerky movements create danger. Again, the grip creates the fall. The Buddha did not teach that we should ignore danger. He taught that we should respond wisely. Wisdom requires relaxation. A mind caught in fear is narrow. A relaxed mind is spacious. This spaciousness allows us to see clearly and respond skillfully. There is an old teaching that compares a tense mind to a cup of muddy water. If we shake the cup trying to see clearly, the water becomes more clouded. But if we set the cup down and allow it to be still, the mud settles naturally. Fear shakes the cup. Relaxation lets it settle. This is why the Buddha emphasized calming the body as part of the path, not as a luxury, not as self-indulgence, but as wisdom. When we consciously soften the shoulders, we are not avoiding reality. We are preparing ourselves to meet it. When we deepen the breath, we are not pretending everything is fine. We are restoring balance to the nervous system. When we feel our feet on the ground, we are reminding ourselves that in this moment, we are supported. These simple acts are profound. They interrupt the cycle of fear at its most basic level. Fear tightens, awareness softens, and softness allows movement. The Buddha spoke of cultivating peaceful mental states intentionally. Just as a gardener tends the soil, pulling weeds and planting seeds, we can tend the body and mind. When fear arises, we do not scold it, we do not panic, we acknowledge it kindly, and then we invite the body to rest. This does not make fear disappear instantly, but it prevents fear from taking over. Over time, the body learns something new. It learns that it does not need to remain on constant alert. It learns that not every sensation of tension means danger. It learns how to return to ease. And as the body learns, the mind learns too. This is the quiet work of liberation. Not dramatic, not forceful, just gentle, consistent softening. The Buddha taught that peace is not found by fighting fear, but by understanding it. And understanding begins in the body. When we learn to rest here in this breathing body, fear loses its strongest foothold, and something else becomes possible. A sense of safety that does not depend on circumstances, a trust that lives beneath the stories of the mind. This is where freedom begins. Have you ever noticed that some people seem to move through life with unusual ease? They face uncertainty just like everyone else. They encounter loss, difficulty, disappointment, and yet things often seem to work out for them. We might call them lucky. But what if luck is not the right word? What if what we are seeing is not luck but softness? The Buddha observed that the way we meet life matters as much as what life brings us. Two people can face the same situation and have entirely different experiences. Not because the situation is different, but because their inner posture is different. One meets life with tension, the other meets life with ease. Fear teaches us to tighten, to brace, to prepare for impact. But life does not move in straight lines. It shifts, it changes, it surprises. A rigid posture cannot adjust. A relaxed one can. This is why softness is not weakness. It is strength. The person who is relaxed can respond. The person who is afraid can only react. The Buddha spoke of a quality called equanimity. A steady, balanced presence that remains open whether conditions are pleasant or unpleasant. Equanimity does not mean indifference. It does not mean that we stop caring. It means that we stop clinging. The equanimous heart is like the earth. It receives rain and drought alike, flowers and refuse alike, and remains stable. When fear dominates the mind, we lose this balance. We become pulled toward what we want and pushed away from what we fear. This constant pulling and pushing is exhausting. Equanimity ends the struggle, not by removing life's challenges, but by changing how we hold them.
Consider again the image of learning to ride a bicycle. The rider who grips too tightly falls. The rider who allows movement stays upright. Life is the same. We cannot keep everything from wobbling, but we can learn how to move with the wobble.
The Buddha taught that trust is not something we place in outcomes. It is something we cultivate in ourselves. Trust does not say nothing bad will happen. Trust, guys, says whatever happens, I can meet it. This trust changes everything. A person who trusts does not freeze. They remain flexible, they remain present, and presence creates options. Fear narrows perception. Trust widens it. This is why people who live with ease often appear to attract good fortune. They are not creating miracles. They are simply able to see and respond to opportunities that fear would miss. Fear sees danger everywhere. Trust sees possibility. Neither denies reality, but one interprets it differently. The Buddha taught that suffering arises not from events, but from clinging to how we want events to be. When we cling, we tighten. When we tighten, we suffer. Equanimity loosens the grip. It allows life to unfold without constant resistance. This does not mean passivity. It means intelligent engagement. The equanimous person still acts, still chooses, still responds, but without panic, without the desperate need for certainty, without the belief that everything must go a particular way in order for life to be okay. There is a quiet confidence in this way of being, not confidence in control, but confidence in adaptability. The Buddha saw this adaptability as a kind of inner refuge. When the heart is steady, external conditions matter less. Storms still come, but they pass through more quickly. And when they pass, less damage remains. Fear leaves scars. Equanimity leaves wisdom. This is why the teachings emphasize balance, not leaning too far into hope, not leaning too far into despair. Simply staying present, simply staying open. From this place, even difficult experiences can be met with clarity. Even loss can be held with grace. Even uncertainty can be lived with peace. This is not a dramatic freedom. It is a quiet one. It does not announce itself. It reveals itself over time, in the way the breath deepens, in the way the shoulders soften, in the way the mind stops racing ahead. The Buddha taught that this steadiness is available to anyone willing to practice letting go. Not all at once, not perfectly, but gradually, moment by moment. Each time fear arises and we soften instead of tighten, we strengthen this quality. Each time we trust instead of brace, we take one step closer to freedom. And slowly, almost without noticing, life begins to feel lighter. Not because it has become easier, but because we have stopped fighting it. Perhaps nowhere does fear reveal itself more painfully than in our relationships. When we love someone, we become vulnerable. We open a place in the heart that can be touched, and whatever can be touched can also be hurt. This is the simple truth of love. The Buddha understood this vulnerability well. He taught that love is one of the most powerful forces in human life, and also one of the most delicate. It can bring profound joy, and it can awaken deep fear. When we care deeply, fear often arrives quietly. What if they leave? What if they change? What if I am not enough? What if I lose this? These questions are natural. They arise because something precious is at stake. But when fear takes hold in the heart, it begins to change how we behave. We watch more closely. We listen for signs of trouble. We analyze tone, silence, small shifts in behavior. We may not realize it, but we are bracing. Embracing changes the atmosphere. Fear in relationships often wears the mask of protection. It says, I am just being careful. I am just trying to keep what matters. But care easily turns into control. We seek reassurance again and again. We question, we check, we tighten our hold. And slowly, the other person begins to feel it. No one feels safe being watched constantly. No one feels free being managed. The irony is painful. The fear of losing love begins to erode love itself. The Buddha taught that clinging is the root of suffering, and love when mixed with clinging becomes heavy. There is an old image that captures this perfectly. Trying to hold water in a clenched fist. The tighter the grip, the faster it slips away. But when the hand is open, the water rests. Love is like this. It cannot be forced to stay. It can only be invited. The more tightly we grasp, the more fragile it becomes. Fear tells us that holding tighter will keep us safe. Experience teaches otherwise. When fear shapes our relationships, we become less present. Part of our attention is always elsewhere, scanning for danger, preparing for loss. We may be physically with someone, but emotionally guarded. And this guardedness creates distance. The Buddha taught that trust is the soil in which love grows. Without trust, love cannot deepen. But trust cannot be built through vigilance. It grows through openness. This does not mean ignoring real problems or boundaries. It means releasing the illusion that control can guarantee safety. There is a quiet courage required here. The courage to love without gripping, to care without demanding certainty. This courage does not make us reckless. It makes us real. When we allow ourselves to be at ease in relationship, something shifts. We listen more fully. We respond more gently. We allow space. And in that space, intimacy can breathe. Fear makes us small. Trust makes us spacious. The Buddha spoke of a quality called loving kindness, a friendliness of the heart that does not demand anything in return. This kind of love is remarkably free from fear. When love is offered freely, there is nothing to protect, nothing to defend. The gift has already been given. This does not mean we will never be hurt. Love always carries risk, but fear does not reduce that risk. It only adds suffering in advance. When we release the grip of fear, relationships may change. Some may deepen, some may end. But whatever happens, we meet it with honesty rather than panic. And this honesty has a quiet strength. The Buddha did not promise that letting go would preserve every relationship. He promised that it would preserve peace. Peace in the heart, even when circumstances change. This is a difficult teaching. It goes against our instincts. We want guarantees, we want security. But life does not offer guarantees. What it offers is the possibility of meeting each moment with openness. When fear loosens its hold on the heart, love becomes lighter, not weaker, but freer. And freedom is the true ground of intimacy. From this place, we can love deeply without losing ourselves. We can care fully without living in fear. This is the love that does not suffocate. This is the love that endures. Fear in relationships often takes a very subtle form. It does not always appear as jealousy or control. Sometimes it appears as perfection. We become afraid of making mistakes, afraid of disappointing, afraid of being seen as flawed. And so we try harder. We try to be the perfect partner, the perfect friend, the perfect version of ourselves. On the surface, this can look like love. We are attentive, we are careful, We anticipate needs before they are spoken.
But underneath fear is working quietly. The fear says, if I do everything right, I will not be rejected. If I never make a mistake, I will be safe. The Buddha understood this pattern well. He saw how fear leads us not only to cling to others, but to cling to an image of ourselves. An image of being good enough, of being worthy of love. This clinging is exhausting. When we are afraid of being seen as imperfect, we are always performing, always monitoring ourselves, always checking how we are coming across. There is no rest in this, and something strange begins to happen. The more we try to be perfect, the less present we become. We are so busy managing ourselves that there is little room left for genuine connection. Others may feel this without knowing why. They sense that something is held back, that something is rehearsed, that something is not fully real. The Buddha taught that authenticity is the ground of true connection.
Without it, relationships become transactions rather than meetings. There is a story about a person who entered a spiritual community with great sincerity. They longed for belonging. They wanted to be accepted, and so they tried very hard to be perfect. They followed every guideline carefully. They watched themselves constantly for mistakes. They anticipated what others might want and tried to provide it before being asked. They believed that perfection was the price of belonging.
But over time, they felt increasingly distant from the community. Despite all their effort, connection remained elusive. Finally, a wise teacher noticed their struggle and said something simple. "You are trying so hard to be perfect that there is no room for you to be here." The words landed deeply. In trying to avoid rejection, the person had hidden themselves. They had offered a performance instead of a presence. Fear had convinced them that their true self was not enough.
The Buddha taught that love does not arise from perfection. It arises from honesty. When we allow ourselves to be seen as we are, something remarkable happens. We give others permission to do the same. Masks fall away, performances end, and in that openness, intimacy becomes possible. Fear tells us that being real is dangerous, that showing our flaws will lead to loss. But experience often teaches the opposite. It is not our imperfections that push others away. It is our guardedness. A heart that is armored cannot be touched, and what cannot be touched cannot be loved. The Buddha spoke of vulnerability, not as weakness but as courage. The courage to be seen, the courage to be human. When we stop trying to be perfect, something softens. We listen more deeply, we respond more honestly, we stop measuring every word and gesture, and in that ease, connection deepens. Fear thrives on control. Love thrives on openness. This does not mean we become careless or irresponsible. It means we stop hiding. We stop trying to secure love through performance. We allow ourselves to participate rather than impress. This is a profound shift. The Buddha taught that suffering arises when we resist what is, when we insist on being something other than what we are. When we relax, this resistance suffering loosens. In relationships, this relaxation feels like relief. We no longer have to hold ourselves so tightly. We no longer have to get everything right. We can simply be here, and this presence is what others feel, more than perfection, more than effort. Presence is the greatest gift we can offer. Fear says, be flawless or be rejected. Wisdom says, be real and see what happens. This does not guarantee safety. Nothing does, but it offers something better. Freedom, the freedom
to love without pretending, the freedom to be seen without armor. And from this freedom, relationships can grow in ways fear could never manage. Fear does something very particular to our presence. When we are afraid, we are not fully here. Part of us is always somewhere else, watching, calculating, preparing for what might go wrong. We may be sitting with someone we love, but our attention is divided. We listen, but only halfway. We respond, but with caution. We hold back even as we reach out. The Buddha understood this deeply. He saw that fear does not only create suffering inside us, it makes us harder to be with. Think of how it feels to sit with someone who is truly relaxed. There is space around them. Their presence feels open. You can breathe more easily. Now think of being with someone who is gripped by fear. There is a tightness, a sense of pressure, a feeling that something is being managed. We feel this instinctively. Fear fills the room, even when it is unspoken. This is why the Buddha taught that inner states matter more than outer actions. We can say the right words, do the right things, follow every rule. But if fear is present, it will be felt. Love cannot flourish in a clenched heart. The opposite of fear in relationships is not recklessness. It is trust. Not trust that things will go perfectly, but trust that we can meet whatever comes. This trust allows us to relax our grip, and when the grip loosens, something beautiful happens. We become available. We listen without rehearsing responses. We speak without calculating outcomes. We allow silence without filling it with anxiety. This availability is the ground of intimacy. The Buddha spoke of a quality called metta, often translated as loving kindness. But metta is not sentimentality. It is not romance. It is a steady friendliness of the heart, a goodwill that does not depend on being rewarded. Metta does not say, "I love you so that you will stay." It says, "I wish you well, whatever you choose." This kind of love is remarkably free from fear. When love is offered freely, there is nothing to lose, nothing to defend, nothing to secure. The gift has already been given. This does not mean relationships become painless. Love still includes vulnerability. Loss is still possible. But fear no longer runs the relationship. The Buddha taught that clinging turns love into suffering, but love itself, when free of clinging, is a source of peace. This is a subtle but radical teaching. We are used to thinking that fear is the price of love, that if we care deeply, we must worry deeply. But the Buddha suggested another possibility, that love and fear are not inseparable, that love can exist without anxiety, without control, without constant vigilance. This love is lighter, not because it is shallow, but because it is honest. It does not promise forever. It does not demand certainty. It simply shows up fully in this moment. There is a quiet strength in this. When we stop gripping, relationships often change. Some deepen, some soften, some end. But whatever happens, we are no longer fighting reality. We meet what comes with dignity rather than desperation. The Buddha did not teach how to make relationships last forever. He taught how to suffer less within them, and sometimes suffering less allows love to last longer. But even when it does not, peace remains. This is the gift of loving kindness. It protects the heart, not by building walls, but by removing chains. A heart that does not cling can break and heal. A heart that clings shatters. When fear loosens its hold on love, something settles. We are no longer trying to secure the future. We are simply living the present. And this presence is felt
It creates warmth, it creates safety, it creates space. Others feel free with us. And freedom is attractive, not because it guarantees permanence, but because it allows authenticity. The Buddha taught that when the heart is free, love flows naturally, not forced, not measured, just offered. This is the love that does not exhaust. This is the love that does not suffocate. This is the love that can rest. And when love can rest, fear has little place to stand. Beneath many of our fears, there is a deeper one quietly at work. A fear that does not always announce itself clearly. A fear that hides behind worry, behind control, behind perfectionism. It is the fear of who we think we are. Each of us carries an image of ourselves. A picture formed from memories, experiences, successes, and failures. From what others have told us. From how we have learned to compare ourselves to the world. This image feels solid, it feels personal, it feels like me. And because it feels so real, we spend enormous energy protecting it. The Buddha taught that this constructed self is one of the deepest sources of fear. Not because it exists, but because we believe it must be defended. We fear failure because it threatens the image of being competent. We fear embarrassment because it threatens the image of being respectable. We fear rejection because it threatens the image of being lovable. Fear is not always about what will happen. Often, it is about what will mean about us. If this goes wrong, who will I be? Then if I fail, what does that say about me? If others see my flaws, will I still belong? The Buddha observed that we constantly curate our identity. When things go well, we claim them. That was me, my effort, my ability. When things go poorly, we distance ourselves. That wasn't really me. I was tired, distracted, unlucky. Through this selective storytelling, we create a self-image that includes our successes and excludes our failures, and then we become terrified of anything that might crack this image. This fear keeps us small. We avoid situations where we might fail publicly. We hesitate to try new things. We hold back our questions, our creativity, our vulnerability. Not because we are incapable, but because we are protecting an image. The Buddha taught a radical insight here. He suggested that the self we are protecting is not as solid as we believe, not permanent, not fixed, not the ultimate truth of who we are. This teaching is often called non-self. It does not mean we do not exist. It means that the identity we cling to is a construction, not a fact. It is a process, not a thing. And because it is a construction, it requires constant maintenance. We must keep achieving to prove our worth. We must keep avoiding mistakes to preserve our image. We must keep seeking approval to reassure ourselves. This is exhausting, and fear is the cost of this exhaustion. Fear arises whenever the image feels threatened. But here is the liberating possibility. If who we are is not defined by success or failure, then failure loses its terror. If our worth is not contingent on being admired, then embarrassment loses its sting. When we see the self as fluid rather than fixed, something loosens. We can try things and fail. We can learn. We can begin again. The Buddha did not teach this to make us indifferent. He taught it to make us free. Free to participate fully in life without the constant burden of self-protection. There is a gentle humor in this teaching. We take ourselves so seriously. We guard our image as if it were fragile glass. And yet life constantly reshapes us anyway. Seeing this clearly allows us to relax. When we stop clinging so tightly to who we think we are, fear loses much of its power. Mistakes become information rather than catastrophe. Embarrassment becomes a moment rather than a verdict. Failure becomes part of learning rather than a threat to existence. The Buddha taught that wisdom includes the ability to laugh lightly at the self, not in a cruel way, but in a compassionate one, a recognition that we are all improvising, all learning, all getting things wrong as we go. When we can laugh at our own missteps, fear softens. We become easier to be with, for ourselves and for others. This is not a dramatic transformation. It is a quiet one. It feels like relief. The relief of not having to be someone in particular. The relief of not having to get everything right. Just the simple permission to be human. When fear no longer has to protect a rigid self, it begins to dissolve. And in its place, something more spacious appears. Curiosity, humility, freedom. This is not the end of fear, but it is the beginning of living without being ruled by it. One of the most common fears shaped by this constructed self is the fear of looking foolish. We dread embarrassment. We avoid situations where we might make mistakes in front of others. We hesitate to speak when we are not certain. We hold back from trying new things unless we feel confident we will do them well. This fear quietly shrinks our lives. The Buddha understood how powerful this fear can be. He saw that it keeps people from learning, from growing, from fully participating in the world. Not because they lack ability, but because they fear how they will appear. We are taught early that mistakes bring consequences, disapproval, criticism, shame. And so we learn to associate being wrong with being unsafe. Over time, we build an identity around being competent. We become the person who knows, the person who performs adequately, the person who does not stumble. But this identity comes at a cost. To protect it, we must avoid being beginners. Yet, every skill we have ever learned required us to be beginners first. The Buddha spoke of a quality sometimes called beginner's mind. It is the mind that does not pretend to already know, the mind that is curious rather than defensive, the mind that is not burdened by the need to appear competent. Beginner's mind is open. It asks questions. It makes mistakes freely. It learns quickly. But fear hates beginner's mind. Fear says if you look foolish, you will lose respect. If you make mistakes, you will be judged. If you do not know, you do not belong. And so we stay silent, we stay small, we repeat what we already know how to do. This fear shows up everywhere. People do not learn new languages because they cannot bear to mispronounce words. They do not share creative work because they fear criticism. They do not ask questions because they fear appearing ignorant. Fear convinces us that dignity lies in competence. But the Buddha suggested something different. He suggested that freedom lies in humility. When we allow ourselves to be beginners, we step out of fear's grip. We no longer have to maintain an image. We no longer have to get things right. We can simply learn. Children know this naturally. They fall, they laugh, they try again. They are not ashamed of being unskilled. They expect it. Somewhere along the way, we forgot this. We learned to equate worth with performance, and fear took root. There is a simple practice that loosens this fear. When you make a mistake, instead of hiding it, acknowledge it. Not with self-criticism, but with kindness. Yes, I made a mistake. And I am still here. Notice what happens. The world does not end. Your worth does not disappear. Sometimes something surprising happens. Others relax. When we allow ourselves to be imperfect, we give others permission to be imperfect too. This creates connection. The Buddha taught that laughter can be a powerful medicine here. When we can laugh gently at our own missteps, embarrassment loses its power. If we laugh with the world does not laugh at us. There is a story of a teacher conducting a very formal ceremony. In the middle of it, the teacher made a noticeable error. Everyone saw it. Instead of freezing or apologizing excessively, the teacher smiled and said, "Now you know that I am human." The tension dissolved. What could have been shame became warmth. This is the power of holding ourselves lightly. The constructed self is heavy. It demands protection. Beginner's mind is light. It does not need defense. The Buddha taught that when fear of embarrassment fades, performance actually improves. This may seem paradoxical, but fear tightens the body and narrows attention. Relaxation opens the body and clears the mind. When people are allowed to make mistakes, they make fewer of them. When fear is removed, intelligence returns. This is why wise teachers and leaders create environments where mistakes are welcomed as learning rather than punished as failure. In such spaces, people flourish. The fear of looking foolish dissolves when we realize something fundamental. We are all beginners at something all the time. Life itself is unfamiliar. None of us truly knows what we are doing. We are all improvising. When we accept this, fear softens. We stop pretending. We stop performing. We begin to participate. The Buddha did not teach us to become experts at life. He taught us to become intimate with it. And intimacy requires openness. Openness requires the willingness to not know. When we let go of the fear of looking foolish, life expands. We try new things. We ask real questions. We risk learning. And in doing so, we discover something quietly liberating. Being human is not about always knowing. It is about being willing to learn. This willingness is the doorway out of fear. There is a kind of learning that can only happen when we face our fear directly. Not gradually, not at a safe distance, but all at once. The Buddha understood this well. He knew that some fears cannot be talked away. They cannot be reasoned with or softened through reassurance. They must be met. This is why throughout the teachings we find stories of students being placed directly into the very situations they most wanted to avoid. Not as punishment, not as cruelty, but as compassion. There is a story of a young monk who had traveled far from his homeland to train in a great monastery. He was still learning the language, still finding his place, still unsure of himself. His teacher was widely respected, known for his clarity and depth of understanding. On important festival nights, thousands would gather to hear him speak. One such night arrived. The great hall was filled with people. Candles flickered. Incense drifted through the air. The young monk sat quietly among the others, grateful to be invisible. Then the teacher's gaze fell upon him. "You," the teacher said, "you will give the teaching tonight." The monk's heart dropped. He had never spoken before such a crowd. He feared his accent, his mistakes, his inadequacy. But there was no refusal, and so he stood. His legs shook as he walked forward. His breath felt thin. He began to speak. The words came slowly, awkwardly, sometimes incorrectly. He lost his place. He repeated himself. He stood in silence, searching for what to say next.
It was not eloquent. It was not impressive. But something else was happening. Minute by minute, the fear changed. He was still afraid. But he was no longer running. He was standing in the very thing he feared most. And the world was not ending. When the talk finally ended, he returned to his seat exhausted. Later, his teacher gave him a small nod. That nod carried the teaching. The fear had lost its mystery. Another story speaks even more starkly. A monk was instructed to give a talk to lay people overnight. He spoke for an hour, struggling, repeating himself, barely managing. When the hour ended, he bowed, relieved. "Continue," his teacher said. Another hour, then another, then another, 4 hours in total. By the final hour, the monk had nothing left, no words, no image to protect, no strength to perform. He stood in silence. He spoke honestly about not knowing what to say. He was utterly exposed, utterly humiliated, and utterly free. In the days that followed, something remarkable occurred. The fear of speaking was gone, not reduced, gone. He had experienced the worst and survived. There was nothing left to fear. The Buddha understood this paradox. As long as fear remains avoided, it retains power. It stays vague, monstrous, unlimited in imagination. But when fear is faced directly, it becomes finite, specific, survivable. This does not mean we should seek suffering. The path is not one of self-punishment, but it does mean that avoidance keeps fear alive and presence dissolves it. When we step into what frightens us, we often discover that we are larger than our fear. Not because the situation is easy, but because we are resilient. Fear tells us we will not survive. Experience often proves otherwise. The Buddha himself faced his deepest fears directly. Sitting beneath the Bodhi tree, he refused to move. Doubt, terror, temptation. He met them all without running, and in doing so, he awakened. This teaching is not about bravery in the heroic sense. It is about honesty. Honesty about what is here. Honesty about what we are avoiding. Life itself often plays the role of teacher. It places us again and again into situations that mirror our deepest fears. Not to punish us, but to free us. We can resist, or we can allow the lesson to unfold. When we stop running, fear loses its chase, and something opens, a strength we did not know we had, a freedom that cannot be learned from safety alone. This is walking into the fire and discovering that we are not burned. There is a moment in many lives that changes everything. It is not a moment of triumph. It is not a moment of success. It is the moment when everything we were trying to protect falls away. When the image collapses, when the plan fails, when the worst has already happened. And strangely, in that moment, something loosens. The monk who spoke for 4 hours and failed completely discovered this. By the end, there was nothing left to defend, no reputation, no dignity, no hope of impressing anyone. And because there was nothing left to lose, a fear had nowhere to stand. This is one of the great paradoxes of fear. As long as there is something we are desperately trying to protect, fear thrives. As long as there is an image, an outcome, a future we believe must be preserved at all costs, fear remains vigilant. But when that protection collapses, fear collapses with it. The Buddha spoke of this again and again. He taught that clinging is the root of suffering, and fear is the anticipation of the pain of losing what we cling to.
When clinging ends, fear ends. This does not mean that loss becomes pleasant. It does not mean pain disappears. It means that resistance ends. And with the end of resistance comes freedom. There is a strange lightness that appears when the worst has already happened. People who have lost everything sometimes speak of this. Not immediately, not while the pain is fresh, but later. They describe a sense of simplicity, a stripping away of what no longer matters, a clarity that could not have come any other way. The Buddha did not romanticize suffering. He did not suggest that
loss is good. But he did teach that loss can reveal what fear was protecting unnecessarily. So much of what we guard so fiercely turns out not to be essential. Reputation, status, approval, the illusion of control. When these fall away, what remains is often more solid than we expected. The capacity to breathe, to respond, to begin again. This is why the fear of the worst is often worse than the worst itself. Fear multiplies pain in advance. It imagines catastrophe endlessly. But when catastrophe arrives, it is finite. It has edges, it has shape, and we meet it moment by moment. The Buddha taught that suffering intensifies when we imagine ourselves unable to survive what is coming. But when we pass through something difficult and discover that we are still here, something fundamental changes. We trust ourselves more, not because life has become safe, but because we have learned that we can endure. This endurance is quiet. It is not bravado. It is simply the knowledge that we are not as fragile as fear suggests. Fear says if this happens, you will be destroyed. Experience often replies, it was hard, but I am still here. This reply weakens fear profoundly. It removes fear's authority. The Buddha taught that true security does not come from protecting ourselves from all harm. That is impossible. True security comes from knowing that we can meet harm without losing ourselves. When we stop demanding that life never break us, we become unbreakable in a deeper way. This does not mean numbness. It does not mean indifference. It means resilience without armor. The monk who had nothing left to lose could speak freely thereafter, not because he had become a brilliant speaker, but because he no longer cared about being one. The stakes were gone, and when the stakes disappear, fear disappears with them. So much of our fear comes from believing that everything is at stake all the time. Every conversation, every decision, every impression. But most things are not that important. The Buddha taught us to see this clearly. He invited us to loosen our grip on what does not need to be held so tightly. When we release the demand to be safe at all costs, something safer appears. Freedom. Freedom to speak, freedom to act, freedom to fail, freedom to live. This freedom is not reckless, it is grounded. It knows what truly matters and what does not. And from this place, life becomes simpler. Not easier, but lighter. We stop carrying the weight of fear into every moment. We stop bracing for impact. We begin to move again. This is not the end of difficulty, but it is the end of being ruled by fear. And from here, a deeper understanding becomes possible. Most of us do not have teachers who deliberately place us into our deepest fears, but life often does. Again and again, life has a way of finding the places where we are most vulnerable and bringing them to the surface. The very things we try hardest to avoid tend to appear in one form or another. The person who fears abandonment finds themselves left. The person who fears failure finds themselves failing. The person who fears being seen finds themselves suddenly visible. This can feel cruel,
unfair, as though life itself were conspiring against us. But the Buddha suggested another way to see this. He taught that life is not an enemy. It is a teacher, and like many good teachers, it does not always teach gently. Some lessons can be learned only through experience, only through contact, only through living directly what we would rather avoid. If we never encounter our fears, they remain abstract. They remain powerful, precisely because they are unknown. Avoidance keeps fear alive, but exposure, when it is survivable, changes everything. The Buddha did not teach that we should seek out pain or deliberately put ourselves in danger. But he did teach that when difficulty arrives, running from it often deepens suffering. Life has a way of insisting. We may resist at first. We may struggle, argue, plead for circumstances to change. But eventually we find ourselves standing in the very situation we feared. And something unexpected can happen. We discover that we are still breathing, still aware, still here. The fear that once felt limitless becomes specific, bounded, human-sized. This is how fear loses its mystery. When difficulty is no longer imagined, but lived, it often becomes more workable. We stop asking, "What if?" and start asking, "What now?" This shift matters. Fear lives in the future. Wisdom lives in the present. When life forces us into the present through difficulty, fear weakens. The Buddha taught that wisdom does not come from comfort alone. It comes from understanding. And understanding often requires friction. Fire tempers steel. Pressure shapes stone. The same is true for the heart. This does not mean that all suffering is necessary. Much suffering is created by resistance, but some difficulty is unavoidable. Aging, illness, loss, change. No amount of planning or vigilance can prevent these. Life will bring them in its own time. The question is not whether difficulty will come. The question is how we will meet it. When we meet difficulty with fear, it overwhelms us. When we meet it with presence, it teaches us. Presence does not eliminate pain, but it prevents panic, and panic is what turns pain into suffering. The Buddha taught that we are not broken by experience. We are shaped by how we relate to experience. When we stop demanding that life be different, we begin to work with what is, and this cooperation with reality changes everything. Life stops feeling like an adversary. It begins to feel like a conversation. Not always a gentle one, but an honest one. Each challenge asks a question. Can you stay? Can you breathe? Can you soften even here? Each time we answer yes, even imperfectly, we grow, not in confidence, but in trust. Trust in our capacity to meet life as it is. This trust does not prevent storms, but it allows us to walk through them, and after enough storms, something settles. We stop being surprised by difficulty. We stop taking it personally. We recognize it as part of being alive. And in this recognition, fear loosens its grip. Life is no longer something to be survived. It becomes something to be lived. This is the quiet teaching hidden in every challenge. Life is not asking us to be fearless. It is asking us to be present. And presence again and again proves to be enough. One of the most common ways fear hides itself is through control. We tell ourselves that we are simply being responsible, practical, prepared. We make plans, backup plans, and plans for when those plans fail. On the surface, this seems wise. But the Buddha noticed something subtle. Much of our planning does not come from clarity. It comes from fear. Fear wants guarantees. Fear wants certainty. Fear wants to know exactly what will happen and how we will respond. But life does not cooperate with these demands. No matter how carefully we plan, the future remains open. Unexpected events arrive, people change, circumstances shift, and when they do, fear tightens its grip. The problem is not planning itself. The problem is the belief that planning can make us safe. This belief creates constant tension. We are never fully present because part of us is always managing the future, running scenarios, rehearsing responses. Even in moments of rest, the mind is working. What if this goes wrong? What if that happens? What if I am not ready? The Buddha taught that this kind of mental activity is exhausting because it fights reality. Reality is uncertain. No amount of control can change that. Control promises safety but delivers anxiety. The more we try to control, the more fragile we feel, because control requires constant effort. And the moment control slips, as it always does, fear rushes in. The Buddha offered another way. Instead of trying to control life, he taught us to trust it. Not blindly, not naively, but deeply. Trust does not mean abandoning responsibility. It means releasing the illusion that responsibility equals control. There is a difference between wise preparation and fearful planning. Wise preparation is flexible. It responds to what is actually happening. Fearful planning is rigid. It insists that things must go a certain way. When rigidity meets reality, suffering arises. The Buddha compared life to a river. We can try to dam it, to force it into narrow channels, but the river will find its own way. We exhaust ourselves trying to hold it back, or we can learn to move with it. Trusting the current does not mean giving up effort. It means choosing effort that flows rather than resists. When we trust life, we become more adaptable. We listen more carefully. We notice subtle shifts. We adjust. Fear-driven control blinds us to these signals. It locks us into fixed expectations. Trust opens perception. It allows us to see what is actually available now. This is why people who trust life often seem calm, even in uncertainty. They are not pretending to know what will happen. They are not clinging to a single outcome. They are available to what arises. The Buddha taught that this availability is a form of wisdom. It is the wisdom of not knowing what will happen next, not knowing how things will turn out, and being okay with that. This does not come easily. The habit of control is deeply ingrained. We have been taught that vigilance equals responsibility. But vigilance rooted in fear never rests. Trust allows rest. When we release the need to control, the body softens, the breath deepens, the mind quiets. We are no longer fighting the future. We are meeting the present. And from this place, action becomes clearer. We respond to what is needed now rather than what we fear might be needed later. This responsiveness is far more effective than rigid planning. The Buddha taught that freedom is not found in predicting life. It is found in participating in it. When we stop trying to force certainty, something gentle emerges, a sense of being carried, not by fate, not by chance, but by our own capacity to adapt. We discover that we do not need to hold everything together. Life is already moving. And when we stop resisting that movement, we move with it. This is not surrender in defeat. It is surrender in trust. And trust, quietly, begins to feel like safety. Not because nothing can go wrong, but because we are no longer at war with what is. When fear loosens its grip on control, something unexpected becomes possible. we begin to experience a different quality of mind. Not excitement, not relief, not even happiness in the usual sense, but steadiness. The Buddha called this quality equanimity. Equanimity is often misunderstood. People hear the word and imagine coldness, distance, a lack of feeling, but equanimity is none of these. It is not the absence of emotion. It is the absence of being overwhelmed by emotion. It is the capacity to feel fully without being carried away. To remain present while waves rise and fall. Most of us live at the mercy of conditions. When things go well, we feel lifted. When things go poorly, we feel crushed. Our inner state rises and falls with circumstances like a boat without an anchor. Fear thrives in this instability. Because when our peace depends on outcomes, every outcome becomes a threat. Equanimity changes this. With equanimity, pleasant experiences are enjoyed without clinging. Unpleasant experiences are endured without resistance. Nothing is pushed away, nothing is grasped. This does not mean we stop caring. It means we stop demanding that life behave in a particular way in order for us to be at peace. The Buddha taught that suffering does not come from pain. It comes from resistance to pain. Two people can experience the same difficulty. One is broken by it, the other is deepened. The difference is not strength, it is relationship. The one who suffers more is fighting reality. The one who suffers less is allowing it. Equanimity is the art of allowing. It is saying yes to what is already here. Not because we like it, not because it is easy, but because it is already happening. When we stop arguing with reality, something inside relaxes. The body softens, the breath slows, and the mind stops searching for escape. This does not mean we approve of everything that happens. It means we stop wasting energy wishing things were different. That energy becomes available for wisdom, for compassion, for clear response. The Buddha compared equanimity to the earth. The earth receives everything. Rain falls, footsteps press into it, seeds are planted, waste is discarded. The earth does not choose, it does not resist. It holds all of it. And because it does not fight, it remains stable. We can learn to be like this. To receive praise without inflation, to receive blame without collapse, to experience joy without fear of losing it, to experience sorrow without being consumed. This is not indifference. It is intimacy with life as it is. Fear cannot survive in equanimity. Fear requires the belief that something must not happen. Equanimity knows that things happen and that we can meet them. One of the most powerful expressions of equanimity is lightness, sometimes even laughter. There are stories of monks who laughed upon hearing devastating news. Not because they were denying reality, but because they were no longer at war with it. When resistance falls away, heaviness often follows. And when heaviness dissolves, lightness naturally appears. This laughter is not mockery, it is relief. The relief of no longer having to protect an image, the relief of no longer having to control outcomes, the relief of no longer pretending that life is supposed to be predictable. Equanimity allows us to see the hidden symmetry of life. Every gain carries loss. Every loss carries possibility. Every ending creates space for something new. Fear focuses only on what is being taken away. Equanimity sees what remains. And often what remains is enough. This does not mean we stop grieving. Grief still comes, but it moves through us rather than becoming us. It visits, teaches, and leaves.
Equanimity gives grief a place to land without letting it take over the house. The Buddha taught that equanimity is not developed all at once. It is cultivated slowly, through noticing, through choosing not to react automatically, through pausing when the mind wants to grasp or push away. Each time we allow an experience to be exactly as it is, we strengthen equanimity. Each time we stop trying to fix the moment, we deepen it. This practice begins in small ways: waiting in traffic without tightening, receiving criticism without defensiveness, facing uncertainty without spiraling into stories. These moments are training. They are not failures, they are opportunities. Over time, equanimity becomes a refuge, not a place we escape to, but a ground we stand on. From this ground, fear has nowhere to take hold, because fear needs instability, it needs resistance, it needs the belief that we cannot handle what is coming. Equanimity knows otherwise. It knows that whatever arises can be met, not perfectly, not effortlessly, but honestly, and that honesty is enough. When equanimity is present, life does not feel smaller. It feels wider. We are no longer bracing, we are participating, and participation is the opposite of fear. Rest here for a moment. Notice the places where you usually tighten, the moments where you demand certainty. Gently imagine meeting those moments with softness instead. This is not a technique, it is a relationship, and it changes everything. Beneath many of our fears lies a quieter one, less obvious, more persistent. The fear of who we think we are. Each of us carries an image of ourselves, not a mirror reflection, but a story built from memories, achievements, failures, praise, criticism, and comparison. I am this kind of person. I am not that kind of person. I must be seen this way. I must never be seen that way. This story feels solid. It feels personal. It feels like me. And because it feels so real, we spend enormous energy protecting it. Fear arises whenever this image feels threatened. The fear of failure, the fear of embarrassment, the fear of looking foolish, the fear of being exposed. These fears are not really about events. They are about identity. What would it mean about me if this went wrong? What would others think of me if I failed? Who would I be if I were not successful? Competent, admired. The Buddha saw this clearly. He taught that much of our suffering comes from attachment to self-image. Not the body alone, not the mind alone, but the idea of who we are. This idea is fragile because it must be maintained. We maintain it by succeeding, by being right, by being liked, by appearing capable. And when reality threatens this, maintenance fear appears. Fear says, protect the image. So we avoid situations where we might fail. We stay silent when we might sound ignorant. We hold back creativity in case it is judged. We choose safety over growth. Over time, life becomes smaller, not because we lack ability, but because fear is guarding an image. There is a story often told in Buddhist circles. A respected teacher once went to a village fair with his students. At the fair was an archery game. For a small fee, anyone could try to hit the center of a distant target. To the students' surprise, their teacher stepped forward. He took the bow. The first arrow fell far short of the target. People laughed. The teacher smiled calmly and said, "That was the shot of a careless person." The second arrow flew wide to the side. More laughter. Again, the teacher smiled. That was the shot of an arrogant person. Then he took the third arrow. He stood quietly, relaxed, present. He released. The arrow struck the center. Cheers erupted. A student asked teacher what was the third shot. The teacher replied, "That was simply my shot."
This story reveals something subtle. When the teacher missed, he did not take it personally. He did not collapse. He did not defend. When he hit, he did not inflate. He remained the same. Most of us do the opposite.
We claim success as proof of who we are, and distance ourselves from failure as if it were not us. This selective identification builds a fragile self, a self that must keep winning to survive. And because it must keep winning, it is afraid.
The Buddha taught a radical insight. This constructed self is not fixed, not solid, not permanent. It is a process, a pattern of thoughts, memories, and reactions. And because it is constructed, it can be observed. And what can be observed is not who we truly are. When we see this, fear begins to loosen. Failure no longer threatens our existence. Embarrassment no longer feels fatal. Being wrong no longer feels dangerous, because we are no longer defending an image. This does not mean we stop caring about doing well. It means our worth is no longer on the line. We can try, we can fail, we can learn without collapsing. One of the most liberating qualities the Buddha spoke of is beginner's mind. The mind that does not need to appear knowledgeable. The mind that is willing to ask simple questions, to make mistakes, to learn openly. Children have this naturally. They fall, they laugh, they try again. They are not afraid of looking foolish. That fear is learned. It is learned when mistakes bring shame, when failure brings judgment, when worth becomes conditional. Beginner's mind returns when we stop tying identity to performance, when we allow ourselves to be human. Fear resists this. Fear says if you let go of the image, you will be nothing. But the opposite is true. When the image loosens, we become more alive, more spontaneous, more creative, more real. We are no longer performing, we are participating. The Buddhists taught the true confidence does not come from always succeeding. It comes from knowing that failure does not define us. When we no longer fear looking foolish, we become free to learn. When we no longer fear being wrong, we become open to truth. When we no longer fear imperfection, we become approachable. Fear isolates, authenticity connects. This is why people feel safe around those who can laugh at themselves. They are not guarding an image. They are present. The world does not need our perfection. It needs our honesty. It needs our willingness to show up as we are. Fear shrinks when we stop asking, "How will this make me look?" and start asking, "How can I meet this moment honestly?" The self-image will still arise. Thoughts about identity will still appear, but we no longer have to obey them. We can see them as thoughts, passing stories, not commands. This is freedom, not the freedom to be admired, but the freedom to be real. Rest here for a moment. Notice where you are still protecting an image. Gently, imagine loosening your grip. Nothing essential is lost. Something vital is gained. One of the most powerful fears we carry is the fear of being seen. Not simply noticed, but truly seen. Seen in our uncertainty, seen in our confusion, seen in our not knowing. This fear shapes more of our lives than we realize. It determines what we say and what we keep silent, what we attempt and what we avoid, where we step forward and where we retreat. The fear of being seen is closely tied to shame. Shame whispers, if others see who you really are, they will turn away. And so we hide. We polish our words. We rehearse our thoughts. We present a version of ourselves that feels safer. This performance can be subtle. or dramatic, but it is exhausting because the mask must be maintained. The Buddha understood this fear deeply. He taught that shame is born from identification with self-image. When we believe we are our image, exposure feels dangerous. But when we see the image as a construction, fear begins to loosen. There is a story of a young monk who was asked by his teacher to speak before a large gathering. He was inexperienced, uncertain in the language, terrified. He wanted to refuse, but the teacher did not allow him. That night, standing before hundreds of people, his hands trembled. His voice cracked. He lost his place. He stood in silence, unable to find the next word. Everything he feared was happening. He was being seen. Seen as unpolished, seen as unsure, seen as not ready. And yet something unexpected occurred. He did not die. The crowd did not attack. The world did not collapse. He spoke awkwardly, imperfectly, and then it was over. Later, he realized something profound. The fear had been worse than the experience. The image he had protected so fiercely was not essential to his survival. He had been seen, and he was still whole. This is a turning point many of us never reach because we spend our lives avoiding this exposure. We build strategies to ensure we are never truly seen. We choose familiar roles. We stay within known competencies. We avoid beginnerhood. But this avoidance keeps fear alive. Fear grows in darkness. It weakens in the light. The Buddha taught that fear cannot be overcome by thinking alone. It must be met directly, gently, experientially. When we face the fear of being seen, something important shifts. We discover that embarrassment is survivable, that imperfection is allowed, that vulnerability does not destroy us. Often, it connects us. People respond not to our polish, but to our humanity. When someone speaks honestly, even awkwardly, it invites trust. When someone admits uncertainty, it creates space. The fear of being seen tells us the opposite. It says hide, or you will be rejected. But again and again, life teaches a different lesson. Authenticity attracts. Performance repels. There is another story of a monk who was asked to speak for an hour. When the hour ended, his teacher said, "Continue." Then another hour, then another. By the fourth hour, the monk had nothing left. He repeated himself. He stood in silence. People left. He was humiliated. And in that humiliation, something broke open. There was nothing left to protect. No image left to defend. When it was finally over, fear was gone. Completely. He had reached the worst-case scenario and survived. This is a difficult teaching, not because it is false, but because it asks us to risk what we most want to protect. Our dignity, our competence, our sense of being enough. But the Buddha taught that dignity does not come from avoiding exposure. It comes from meeting exposure with honesty. Fear says if you are seen, you will lose something. Wisdom says if you are seen, you may lose the mask. And the mask is not you. When we stop hiding, life becomes lighter. We no longer monitor ourselves constantly. We no longer calculate every impression. We are free to respond, free to learn, free to fail. This does not mean we deliberately seek humiliation. It means we stop letting fear decide our limits. We allow ourselves to be beginners, to ask questions, to speak even when our voice shakes. Each time we do this, fear loses authority. It no longer dictates what is possible. The Buddha taught that liberation does not come from perfection. It comes from non-clinging, including non-clinging to reputation.
When we release our grip on how we are seen as something extraordinary happens. We become present. Presence is more compelling than performance. People feel it, they relax around it, and most importantly, we relax. The fear of being seen is really the fear of being rejected by ourselves. When we meet our own imperfections with kindness, others tend to follow. Not always, but often enough. And when they don't, we are still okay.
This is the freedom fear does not want us to discover, that we do not need universal approval to live fully, that we can stand in our own experience, seen or unseen, approved or not, whole. Rest here for a moment. Notice where you are still hiding.
Not to judge, just to see. And remember, nothing essential is lost when you are seen. Something essential is finally allowed to breathe.
As long as fear remains untested, it holds power. It lives in imagination, in projection, in stories about what might happen, and imagination when fueled by fear is ruthless. It shows us only one ending, the worst one. So we organize our lives to avoid that ending. We stay small, we stay careful, we stay within the narrow borders of what feels safe. The Buddha saw this pattern clearly. He taught that fear survives on avoidance. What we avoid begins to feel larger than it is. What we never face becomes monstrous. But when fear is met directly, something remarkable happens. It shrinks, not because the experience is pleasant, but because it is real. The imagined worst is often far worse than the lived one. There is a story of a monk who feared public speaking more than anything. Not because he disliked speaking, but because he feared humiliation. He feared standing before others and having nothing intelligent to say. He feared silence. He feared being exposed as inadequate. For years, this fear shaped his choices. He avoided situations where he might be asked to speak. He stayed in the background. He told himself he preferred solitude. But deep down, he knew he was hiding. One day, his teacher called him forward and instructed him to give a talk. Not for 10 minutes, not for an hour, but for as long as it took. The monk spoke. He ran out of ideas. He repeated himself. He paused in long silences. People shifted uncomfortably. Some left. Everything he feared unfolded, and still, nothing catastrophic happened. When it finally ended, he felt something unexpected. Emptiness. And within that emptiness, freedom. The fear was gone. Not reduced. Gone. He had already experienced the worst. There was nothing left to protect. This story points to a deep truth. Fear tells us that certain experiences are unbearable, but once endured, they often lose their charge. The Buddha taught that suffering is amplified by resistance. When we resist what is happening, pain multiplies. When we allow it, pain moves. This does not mean we seek suffering, but it does mean that avoidance is not always kindness. Sometimes avoidance is fear disguised as care. The Buddha's path is not about comfort, it is about liberation. And liberation sometimes requires walking directly into what we dread. Fear says if this happens, I will not survive.
Experience says this happened, and I am still here. This realization is transformative, because once the worst has happened, fear has no leverage. It cannot threaten what has already been lived. This is why many people feel strangely lighter after great loss. Not because loss is good, but because something false has fallen away. Illusions of control, illusions of invulnerability, illusions of image. When these illusions collapse, life becomes simpler. Harder, perhaps, but simpler. The Buddha understood
that the deepest fears cannot be reasoned away. They must be met, not aggressively, not recklessly, but with presence, with willingness, with openness to what actually occurs. When fear is met in this way, it transforms. It becomes confidence, not confidence in outcomes, but confidence in our capacity to meet whatever arises. This is real courage, not bravado, not fearlessness, but the willingness to feel fear and move anyway. The Buddha himself faced this moment. Sitting beneath the Bodhi tree, he was confronted by doubt, terror, and temptation. The stories describe forces that tried to pull him away, to frighten him, to convince him that he was not ready. He did not fight, he did not flee. He stayed. He let fear show its face, and in staying, fear dissolved. Because fear cannot survive presence. It needs distraction, it needs avoidance. When we stay fully, fear has nowhere to hide. This does not mean fear disappears forever. It may return, but each time we meet it, it weakens. Each time we walk through what we dread, we reclaim territory. Life expands. The boundaries of the possible shift. We begin to live less from fear and more from curiosity. What if I can survive this? What if this is not the end? What if there is something on the other side I cannot yet see? Fear answers these questions with silence, because fear has no vision beyond avoidance. Only experience does. The Buddha taught that wisdom is born from direct knowing, not from theory, not from belief, but from seeing for ourselves. When we face our fears directly, we gain this knowing. We no longer rely on imagination. We rely on lived truth, and lived truth is far more stable. There is a particular freedom that comes when we realize we have nothing left to lose. Not because life has taken everything, but because we have stopped defining ourselves by what can be taken. Reputation, approval, certainty. When these are no longer central, fear loses its grip. We are no longer negotiating with life, we are participating. This does not mean life becomes easy, but it becomes honest, and honesty is lighter than fear. The Buddha did not promise a life without difficulty. He promised a life without unnecessary suffering. And unnecessary suffering comes from resisting what must be faced. Walking through the worst is not a one-time event. It happens again and again in smaller ways. Speaking when it feels uncomfortable. Trying when success is uncertain. Showing up when we could hide. Each of these is practice. Each is a step toward freedom. Fear says turn back. Wisdom says stay. And in staying, we discover that we are larger than our fear. Always have been. Rest here for a moment. Notice where fear has been limiting your movement, not to force yourself forward, just to see. And remember, the path does not avoid the fire. It walks through it, and on the other side, something lighter waits. There comes a moment on this path when fear has nowhere left to stand. Not because fear has been defeated, not because life has become safe, but because there is nothing left to hold. We usually imagine safety as accumulation. More certainty, more control, more preparation, more assurance. But the Buddha taught something radically different. True safety comes not from having more, but from needing less. Fear survives on attachment. It needs something to protect, something to defend, something to lose. When there is nothing left that we insist must be held, fear loosens. This does not happen suddenly for most of us. It happens gradually, layer by layer. First, we release attachment to outcomes. We learn that things can go differently than we hoped and we remain intact.
Then we release attachment to approval. We discover that not everyone needs to like us and life continues. Then we release attachment to image. We allow ourselves to be ordinary, flawed human. And finally, something deeper begins to loosen. The attachment to the idea that we are the controller of life. This is the most subtle attachment of all. Even after we have faced fear, even after we have survived humiliation, loss, and uncertainty, there often remains a quiet sense of, I am still managing this. I am still holding things together. I am still the one steering. The Buddha pointed directly at this. He taught that this sense of being the doer is also a construction, a habit, a subtle form of clinging. As long as we believe that life depends on our constant effort, tension remains. Fear may be quieter, but it is still there. The deepest letting go is the letting go of control itself, not in behavior, but in identity. The realization that life is happening with or without our interference. Breathing happens, the heart beats, thoughts arise and pass. We do not make these things happen. They are already happening. When this is seen, clearly a profound relaxation occurs. Not the relaxation of relief, but the relaxation of surrender. This surrender is not collapse, it is not resignation, it is alignment with reality. The Buddha described this as laying down the burden. For most of our lives, we have been carrying something heavy. The burden of needing things to be a certain way. The burden of managing outcomes. The burden of protecting a self. When this burden is set down, there is an unexpected lightness. Not excitement, not joy in the usual sense, but ease. The ease of no longer fighting the flow of existence. At this stage, fear does not disappear completely, but it loses urgency. It becomes information rather than command, a sensation rather than a dictator. Fear may arise, but it no longer determines our actions. We can feel it and still move. We can hear it and still choose. This is the difference between being ruled by fear and being informed by it. The Buddha never taught the elimination of sensation. He taught freedom from bondage. Bondage is when fear controls behavior. Freedom is when fear is allowed but not obeyed. There is a quiet dignity in this freedom, a steadiness. Life continues to bring change. Loss still comes, uncertainty remains. But there is no longer panic at their arrival. They are recognized as part of the movement of things. The Buddha spoke of this as living in harmony with impermanence, not resisting it, not resenting it, but flowing with it. When we stop trying to make things permanent, we stop fearing change. When we stop demanding certainty, we stop fearing uncertainty. When we stop insisting on control, we stop fearing chaos. This does not mean life becomes predictable. It means we become adaptable, and adaptability is far more powerful than control. At this depth, trust is no longer a belief. It is an experience, the experience that whatever arises can be met. Not because we are special, but because meeting is our nature. The mind may still tell stories, the body may still tighten at times. But beneath it all there is a ground, a sense of being held by life rather than standing against it. The Buddha taught that this ground is always present. It is not created, it is revealed when clinging stops. This is why awakening is not an achievement. It is a recognition, a remembering. Nothing new is added. Something old is released. The old habit of bracing, the old reflex of resistance, the old belief that safety must be earned through effort.
When these fall away, what remains is surprisingly ordinary. Breath, sensation, awareness, and yet this ordinariness is extraordinary because it is free, free from the need to become something else, free from the need to arrive somewhere, free from the fear of losing what was never owned. And this is why the Buddha described liberation as peace. Not happiness, not pleasure, peace. The peace that does not depend on conditions. The peace that remains even when conditions are difficult. This peace is not dramatic, it is quiet, so quiet that we often overlook it. We are used to chasing intensity, we miss subtlety. But this peace is steady, reliable, always here, waiting beneath the noise of fear. When there is nothing left to hold, the hands open naturally. Not because we force them, but because there is no longer anything to grip. And in that openness, life flows. Effort becomes appropriate rather than desperate. Action becomes responsive rather than reactive. We still act, we still care, but we no longer struggle against what is. The Buddha taught that this is the end of suffering, not the end of pain, but the end of fighting pain, the end of adding fear to uncertainty, the end of turning life into a problem to be solved. Life becomes something to be lived, moment by moment, breath by breath, without armor, without strategy, just presence. Rest here. Notice how it feels to imagine setting everything down. Not forever, just for this moment. Nothing to protect, nothing to prove, nothing to hold. Only this, and this is enough. When there is nothing left to hold, the mind naturally turns inward, not to search, not to fix, but to rest. This is where meditation truly begins, not as a technique, not as an effort, but as a settling. For many people, meditation seems intimidating. They imagine silence as emptiness, stillness as loss, letting go as disappearance, and fear arises. What will happen if I stop thinking? Who will I be if the stories fall quiet? The Buddha understood this fear. He taught that the mind clings to movement because it believes movement is survival. Thoughts race because they think they must. But when we sit and allow the mind to slow, something unexpected appears. Awareness, not something we create, not something we control. It is already here. Thoughts arise within it. Sensations arise within it. Fear arises within it. And then they pass. Awareness does not move. It does not tense. It does not brace. It simply knows. When meditation deepens, we begin to notice something subtle. Fear is not as solid as it once seemed. It is a pattern of sensations, a tightening in the chest, a flutter in the belly, a heat in the face, and a story layered on top. This is dangerous. This must stop. I cannot handle this. But when we sit quietly, these stories lose momentum. The sensations remain, but the panic fades, because awareness does not react. This is a crucial discovery. Fear is intense only when it is believed. When fear is observed without judgment, it begins to unwind. Not because we push it away, but because it is allowed. The Buddha taught that what we resist persists. What we allow transforms. In meditation, fear often appears at the threshold of stillness. Just as the mind is about to rest, fear whispers, "Do not go there." It may show images, memories, sudden urges, anything to pull attention back into motion. This is not a problem. It is a sign that something deeper is being approached. The Buddha described this as Mara, not as a demon, but as the embodiment of fear and clinging. Mara appears when the sense of self feels threatened, and what threatens the self more than stillness. In stillness, the usual reference points dissolve. There is no role to play, no image to maintain, no future to manage. The self grows quiet, and fear protests. But when we stay gently, patiently, fear cannot maintain itself. Because fear depends on identification. I'm afraid. But in awareness, fear is simply known. There is fear. This shift is everything. The Buddha taught that liberation begins with this distinction between what arises and what knows. Fear arises. Awareness knows. Awareness is not afraid of fear. It has room for it. As meditation deepens, the sense of the body may soften. The edges blur. The weight shifts. For some, this is unsettling. The body has always felt like home. When its solidity fades, fear can surface. Am I disappearing? Am I losing control? But again, nothing is lost. What is fading is the mental construction of the body as solid and fixed. What remains is sensation, flowing, changing, and beneath sensation awareness, steady, unmoving. The Buddha taught that the body is not the self, it is an experience, and experiences change. Awareness does not. This realization is not intellectual, it is felt. When this is seen directly, fear of loss diminishes. Because we are no longer identifying solely with what can be lost. Deeper still, the sense of being the doer may begin to soften. The feeling of I am meditating relaxes. Breathing happens without effort. Sounds arise without preference. Thoughts come and go. Meditation begins to meditate itself. This is often the most frightening point, because effort has been our anchor. Without effort, the mind wonders, what is holding this together? The answer is simple. Nothing needs to. Life is already functioning. When the doer relaxes, something profound is revealed. There is no gap, no collapse, no void, only presence, wide, quiet, unthreatened. Fear has no place here. Not because fear is excluded, but because there is no one left to be threatened. The Buddha described this as touching the unconditioned, not a place, not a state, but a recognition. The recognition that peace is not something to be achieved. It is what remains when grasping stops. This does not mean meditation will always feel peaceful. Fear may return, thoughts may surge, but now there is context. Fear is seen as weather, passing through a vast sky. The sky does not fear storms, it allows them, and in allowing it remains unchanged. This is the freedom the Buddha pointed to. Not a freedom from experience, but freedom within experience. Fear may still arise in daily life, in relationships, in uncertainty, in loss, but it no longer defines reality. It is recognized as a visitor, not a ruler. Meditation trains this recognition again and again. Each time we sit and allow what is, we weaken the habit of resistance. Each time we stay with sensation without story, we loosen fear's grip. This practice does not require perfection. It requires honesty, showing up as we are, afraid or calm, restless or still. All are allowed, because awareness does not judge, it receives, and in receiving it, heals. The Buddha taught that awakening is not dramatic, it is quiet. So quiet that fear often misses it, because fear is loud, but peace whispers. And when we learn to listen, we realize the silence we feared is not empty. It is full of life, full of presence, full of ease. Rest here. Let the breath breathe itself. Let sensations rise and fall. Let fear come if it comes. There is space. Nothing needs to be done. Nothing needs to be held. Awareness is already here. And in this, knowing fear slowly dissolves.
not into nothing, but into understanding.
Meditation does not end when we open our eyes. It follows us into conversation, into work, into uncertainty. The true measure of freedom is not what happens on the cushion, but what happens when life moves. Fear often returns in ordinary moments.
A message not yet answered, a conversation that feels tense, a decision with unclear consequences. The difference now is subtle but profound. Fear may arise, but it no longer has automatic authority. Before fear spoke and we obeyed. We tightened, we withdrew, we reacted. Now there is space. We notice fear as it appears, a tightening in the chest, a familiar contraction, and instead of moving away, we pause. This pause is everything. The Buddha taught that between stimulus and response, there is freedom. Most of our suffering comes from collapsing this space. Fear arises and action follows instantly. Words spoken too quickly. Defenses raised too fast. Opportunities avoided without reflection. When awareness is present, the chain is broken. Fear arises, awareness knows, and a choice appears. This choice does not come from analysis. It comes from presence. We feel the fear and choose not to be driven by it. This does not mean fear disappears. It means fear is included, not obeyed. Consider how this changes relationships. In the past, fear might have made us defensive. We interpreted neutral words as threats. We protected ourselves before listening. Now we feel the same tightening, but instead of reacting, we stay. We listen more deeply. We speak more slowly. Fear is felt, but connection remains possible. Or consider decision-making. Fear loves certainty. It wants guarantees, but life rarely offers them. Previously, we waited until fear subsided before acting. Often it never did. Now we act with fear present, not recklessly, but honestly. We move because the moment asks us to move, not because fear has been silenced. This is courage in the Buddhist sense, not the absence of fear, but the willingness to move with it. The Buddha did not teach fearlessness. He taught non-clinging. Fear clings to imagined futures. Awareness stays with what is. When we act from awareness, fear loses its grip. We are no longer negotiating with imagined outcomes. We are responding to the present. This shift changes how we experience success and failure. Success no longer inflates us. Failure no longer collapses us, because neither defines who we are. They are events, experiences, passing conditions. The Buddha taught that equanimity is the balance that allows this, not indifference, but steadiness. With equanimity, praise is received without addiction. Criticism is received without devastation. Fear often hides behind the need for validation. When validation is no longer essential, fear weakens. We begin to trust something deeper, not outcomes, but our capacity to meet outcomes. This trust grows slowly, through lived experience. Each time we face a situation we once avoided and survive, trust deepens. Each time we speak honestly instead of safely, trust deepens. Each time we stay present in discomfort without escaping, trust deepens. Fear learns. It learns that its warnings are not always accurate, that discomfort is not destruction, that vulnerability does not equal danger. Over time, fear becomes quieter, not because it has been suppressed, but because it has been understood. The Buddha taught that understanding is the end of fear, not control, not avoidance. Understanding that fear is a response, not a prophecy. Understanding that uncertainty is not a mistake. Understanding that life is not something to be secured. It is something to be lived. This does not make us careless. It makes us responsive. We become more attuned to what is actually needed, because our attention is no longer hijacked by fear's stories. We see more clearly. We act more wisely. There is a gentleness that emerges when fear no longer dominates. We are less harsh with ourselves, less demanding. We no longer expect ourselves to be invulnerable. We allow mistakes. We allow pauses. We allow growth to unfold at its own pace. This gentleness extends to others. When we are not ruled by fear, we stop needing others to behave a certain way to feel safe. We give them room. And in that room, relationships soften. Life does not become predictable, but it becomes workable. Fear thrives on the belief that we cannot handle what is coming. Awareness reveals that we are already handling what is here, right now, breathing, listening, feeling, nothing extraordinary. And yet this ordinariness is enough. The Buddha taught that freedom is not elsewhere. It is found in the intimacy of this moment. When fear is no longer the driver, life feels closer, more immediate, less filtered. We are not living in anticipation. We are living. And living includes uncertainty, includes vulnerability, includes loss. But it also includes connection, creativity, presence. When fear loosens, we begin to experience a quiet confidence. Not confidence that things will go our way, but confidence that whatever happens, we will meet it. This confidence is not loud. It does not announce itself. It simply stands. And from this standing, fear has less to say. It still speaks, but it is no longer believed automatically. The Buddha taught that awakening is not a single moment. It is a way of relating, a way of meeting experience without grasping or resistance. Each moment offers this choice, to tighten or to soften, to react or to respond, to live from fear or to live from present. There is no final victory over fear. There is only this moment. And in this moment, awareness is available. The breath is happening. The body is here. Life is unfolding. Nothing needs to be resolved before we can be present. Nothing needs to be fixed before we can participate. Fear may still appear. Let it. It does not need to leave for freedom to be here. Freedom is already here, in the space that knows fear, in the pause before reaction, in the willingness to stay. Rest here for a moment. Notice what it feels like to not rush, to not resolve, to simply be with a what is. This is living without fear's permission, and it is enough. At a certain point on this path, something quiet but decisive happens. We stop arguing with life. Not because life has become gentle, not because circumstances have improved, but because resistance has become too tiring. For most of our lives, we have been saying no to what is. No, this should not be happening. No, I am not ready for this. No, this should be different. No, I cannot accept this. Fear lives inside these refusals. Each no tightens the body. Each no narrows the mind. Each no keeps us in conflict with reality. The Buddha taught that suffering is not caused by what happens, but by our refusal to allow what happens. This does not mean approval. It means acknowledgement. Acceptance is not resignation. It is honesty. It is the simple recognition. This is what is happening now. When we say yes to this moment, not happily, not enthusiastically, but honestly, something shifts. The fight ends. And when the fight ends, energy returns. So much of our fear comes from exhaustion, from constantly pushing against what cannot be changed.
When resistance drops even briefly, there is relief. Not relief because things are fixed, but relief because we are no longer at war. The Buddha spoke of this as right acceptance, not a passive acceptance, but wise acceptance. Wise acceptance says this is here. What is the most compassionate way to meet it? Fear asks a different question. How do I get away from this? Wisdom asks, how do I stay with this without breaking? Staying does not mean liking. It means allowing. Allowing the sensation, allowing the emotion, allowing the uncertainty. Fear
Thrives when experience is rejected. It weakens when experience is allowed. Consider how fear behaves when something unexpected happens. The mind races. Stories appear instantly. This is terrible. This will ruin everything. I cannot handle this.
These stories are attempts to regain control, but they create suffering where none yet exists. When we pause and say, yes, yes, this is uncomfortable. Yes, this is uncertain. Yes, I do not know what comes next. The stories lose their grip.
Not because answers appear, but because the questions no longer feel threatening. The Buddha taught that acceptance opens the door to clarity. When we stop fighting reality, we can finally see it. And seeing clearly is the beginning of wise action. Fear-driven action is frantic. It tries to escape. Acceptance-driven action is calm. It responds. This is why acceptance is not weakness, it is strength. It allows us to act without panic, to choose without desperation, to move without forcing. And in this way, acceptance becomes freedom. Not freedom from difficulty, but freedom within difficulty. When we say yes to what is fear, no longer needs to shout. It has done its job of alerting us. Now wisdom can take over. Over time, this practice changes our relationship to fear entirely. Fear becomes a signal rather than a threat, a messenger rather than a master. We feel fear arise, and instead of contracting, we soften. Instead of bracing, we breathe. Instead of resisting, we allow. This does not make fear disappear instantly, but it changes how fear moves through us. It moves faster. It leaves fewer scars. The Buddha taught that acceptance is the gateway to peace. Not because life becomes peaceful, but because the heart stops demanding that it be so. There is a deep humility in this, a recognition that we do not control the unfolding of things. We participate, we respond, but we do not command. When this humility is embraced, fear loosens, because fear is fueled by the belief that everything depends on us. Acceptance reveals the truth. Life is larger than our efforts, and we are carried more than we realize. This does not make us passive. It makes us aligned. Aligned with impermanence, aligned with uncertainty, aligned with change. The Buddha taught that all conditioned things arise and pass away. Resisting this truth creates fear. Accepting it creates peace. Peace does not mean stillness, it means flow. We move with what arises rather than against it. In this flow, fear has less friction to work with. It cannot catch, it cannot cling, it passes. Moment by moment, acceptance trains the heart. We accept small discomforts, waiting, uncertainty, minor disappointment. Each acceptance is a rehearsal, so that when larger difficulties arrive, the heart already knows how to stay. This is not dramatic. It is quiet training, invisible to others, but transformative. The Buddha did not promise a life free of pain. He promised a heart free from unnecessary struggle. Acceptance is how that promise is kept. When we stop saying no to what is, we discover that much of what we feared was not the experience itself, but our resistance to it. And when resistance falls away, fear loses its strongest ally. What remains is a simple presence. Breathing, aware, open, nothing special, and yet deeply free. Rest here for a moment. Notice any place inside you that is still saying no, not to change it, just to see it. And gently, when you are ready, allow that no to soften, just a little. This is the practice, and it leads home. As our journey begins to draw toward its close, something subtle becomes clear. Fear has not vanished, and yet it no longer feels central. It no longer defines the landscape of the mind. What once felt loud and overwhelming has grown quieter, less convincing, less urgent. Not because we forced it to leave, but because we stopped believing everything it said. The Buddha taught that fear is not an enemy. It is a messenger. It arrives to alert us that something feels threatened. But what we have seen together is this. What fear tries to protect is often not our true safety, but our habits of clinging, our attachment to certainty, our attachment to control, our attachment to identity. When these attachments loosen, fear loses its footing, and something else becomes visible, a quiet light. This light is not dramatic, it does not announce itself. It is the simple clarity of awareness that remains when struggle subsides.
The Buddha spoke of this clarity often, not as something to be achieved, but as something to be uncovered, like a lamp in a dark room. The darkness does not need to be removed. The light simply needs to be uncovered. Fear is like darkness. It seems powerful only when the light is obscured. When awareness returns, fear is seen for what it is, a passing condition, not a permanent truth. As we have moved through stories of storms and forests, monks and students' failure and exposure, we have seen this pattern again and again. Fear tightens, understanding softens, fear isolates, awareness connects. Fear rushes toward imagined futures. Presence rests here. This does not mean we will never feel afraid again. Life will continue to bring uncertainty. Change will continue. Loss will arrive. But fear will no longer feel like a verdict. It will feel like weather, and weather passes. The Buddha taught that true refuge is not found in circumstances. It is found in awareness. Awareness does not promise that nothing bad will happen. It promises something more reliable, that whatever happens can be met, that there is something in us larger than fear, not stronger in the sense of force, but deeper in the sense of stability. This stability is not tension, it is ease, an ease that allows movement, an ease that allows rest. As we settle here at the edge of this journey, notice how little effort is required now. That breathing is happening, sounds come and go, thoughts may still arise, but they no longer need to be chased. Fear may appear as a sensation, a flicker, a memory. Let it. Nothing needs to be done. The Buddha often used simple images to describe awakening. A flame sheltered from the wind. A lake undisturbed by storms, a lamp lighting other lamps without diminishing itself. Fear is like wind. When the flame is exposed, it flickers. But when sheltered by understanding, it burns steadily. The flame does not fight the wind. It simply rests in protection. That protection is awareness, and awareness is always available. Right now, you do not need to remember everything you have heard. You do not need to understand it all. Understanding is not something the mind collects. It is something the heart recognizes. Whatever is spoken to you tonight, let it remain. Whatever has not, let it drift away. The Buddha taught that one moment of clear seeing can illuminate a lifetime.
You do not need to eliminate fear. You only need to stop being ruled by it. And that begins again and again in small moments. One breath where you soften instead of tighten. One pause where you stay instead of flee. One question asked gently instead of in panic. These moments accumulate, quietly, naturally, until one day fear no longer feels like home. And presence does. As we prepare to rest, imagine yourself walking out of the forest. The storm is past, not because you fought it, but because storms always pass. You may be wet, you may be tired, but you are whole. A warm light glows ahead. Not a destination, a reminder that peace is not on the other side of life. It is woven into life itself, waiting to be noticed, waiting to be trusted, waiting to be rested in. Rest now. Let the body settle. Let the breath slow. Nothing more needs to happen tonight. The journey continues, but for now it is enough to be here. And in this being, fear grows quiet. The light remains. Now there is nothing left to understand, nothing left to resolve. The mind does not need another idea. The heart does not need another answer. Everything that needed to be said has already been heard in the quiet way that true things are heard. Fear may still exist somewhere at the edges. A distant echo, a faint memory, but it no longer needs attention. Like a sound fading into the night, it grows quieter on its own. Right now there is only this, the gentle rhythm of breathing, the steady weight of the body resting, the simple fact of being here. The Buddha taught that peace is not something we create. It is what remains when we stop interfering. So let the body rest. Let the shoulders soften. Let the jaw release. Let the breath fall into its own natural pace. There is nowhere to go, nothing to prepare for, no future that needs managing in this moment. Whatever tomorrow brings will arrive on its own. Tonight, there is no need to meet it. If thoughts drift through the mind, let them drift. Like clouds crossing a wide sky, no need to follow them, no need to push them away. Awareness remains, quiet, open, untroubled. Somewhere in the depth of this stillness, you may sense that you are not alone. As if this long, quiet moment is shared with countless others resting under the same sky, listening through the same silence. This is the long night. Not a place, but a shared pause where nothing is asked of you and nothing needs to be held. The Buddha spoke of sleep as a kind of surrender, a small letting go we practice every night. We trust the body to breathe. We trust the heart to beat. We trust life to carry us, even when we are not watching. This trust is already here. You do not have to make it happen. Simply allow yourself to be carried. The day is complete. Whatever was unfinished can rest. Whatever was heavy can be set down. You have done enough. Now it is safe to rest. Let the mind become spacious. Let the edges soften. Let awareness widen and then gently fade into sleep. Nothing is missing. Nothing is wrong. In this moment, all is well. Sleep comes naturally when there is nothing left to hold. And there is nothing left to hold. Good night.